this is a question on abortion, and I think we can end with this because it touches on a lot of other questions. What is the Buddhist position on abortion? And in a way, that question is very, very simply answered, and in a way, it kind of opens up a larger and more complicated discussion. The texts are quite clear in the Buddhist tradition that a fetus is a living being, that a human fetus is a living being. And so when we take vows, for example, lifetime vows like some people took last night, to swear to never kill a human being, the phrase also includes or a human fetus. I swear to never kill a human being or a human fetus again for the rest of my life. So that's the easy answer to the question. Now the more complicated answer involves us in a little bit of discussion about karma and morality. If you are sincerely under the impression that a fetus is not a living being and you have an abortion, it is much, much less serious than thinking that the fetus is a living being and having an abortion. You see? So that's a question for abortion is legal in this country. It's been made legal, and so every person, and this is not just for women, because if you're in a partnership, you share the karma of this. If you are absolutely positively sure that it's not a living being, then the karma of aborting it is a lot different. Than thinking that it is even thinking that it might be a living being. That's a more serious karma. But being pretty certain or really certain that it is a living being and aborting it is a very serious negative karma. It is a very serious negative karma. So you see, Mr. Karma is you. Karma is you. And if you know you're doing something wrong, it's making a bigger impression on you than if you do something that other people said you probably shouldn't do, but you really don't think it's wrong. It's interesting. Now, that doesn't mean, however, that just not knowing that it's wrong gets you off the hook. So we do say that you actually see yourself, so at some level, it's making some kind of impression. Even without thinking it's wrong, it's making some kind of negative impression. Because you see in some part of your consciousness observes the fact that because of your actions, something that was once a growing thing inside of you is no longer growing. And that makes an impression, that makes an imprint. And that's the case also with euthanasia. With euthanasia. You might be very, very convinced out of the best possible motives, that really it's not helping this person to keep them on life support, that it's out of my best understanding of what a compassionate act is here, I'm going to pull the plug. But at some level, you see the fact that because of your words or your actions, that at one point the waves are going like this, and at another point it's going like this. And that's what we call a peripheral awareness of karma. So it is killing. It is killing, actually. But the killing is mitigated severely by the motivation. You see? Severe. So if you are really, really certain that this is that actually the most kind and the most compassionate thing that you could do for Uncle so-and-so who's sitting in a seemingly vegetable-like state, being kept alive by machines, if you're really convinced that this is the most compassionate thing to do, then that is a very, very powerful counterbalance to the actual act of making it impossible for that person to be alive anymore, pulling the plug. Yeah.
Did you actually say?
Did everyone hear her question? It's a living will question. If they've written in a living will that at a certain point, when such and such happens, I ask that the life support systems be closed down. And I think you must honor that. However, if you are a family member, and you should be clear. You should be clear with your relatives that you don't want to be put in that position. That if you believe what I'm saying here about you are definitely going to be taking a hit no matter what if you pull the plug. It's a bad karmic act for you. At some level, it's a bad karmic act. You should have a discussion with your family members and say, look, I'm going to have a really hard time. You're putting me in a very difficult position. Could we talk about this? Right? So to try, maybe you'll come in the course of conversation to say, well, all right, I'll abide by your wishes. I'll take the karmic hit, so that I can, do what it is that you think you want me to do for you. But at least have a conversation in advance. You see that if you haven't had a conversation in advance, you're just going to be presented with a document, right? And then you're going to, and then you're going to kind of be your hand is going to be forced a bit. So better to have the conversation in advance than to be, in the last minute, find suddenly, they've had this document sitting around, in the lawyer's vault. The last thing, okay. We're on the topic of killing, right? And it is actually impossible. It's part of the conditions that we live under in samsara, what we call samsara. This kind of like crappy life, broken realm. It's part of the conditions that we live under that we actually cannot live without killing. We cannot live without killing. As we walk to our cars at the end of this teaching, how many living beings are we squashing? Right? So we're always in this kind of position of trying to minimize the damage. And the way to minimize the damage is intention, is to keep the intention as pure as possible. So that's the case with euthanasia, that's the case with abortion, that's the case with walking across the lawn to the parking lot. It's like, I wish I were living in a world where I didn't have to, compromise. But I'm not. And until I do find myself in a position like that, my heart just aches for the pain I'm causing other beings. And so you use it as a kind of a spur to get yourself in a position where you don't have to live in a world like this. And then that's what enlightenment would be. Enlightenment would be in a world where you don't have to cause pain to other people to sustain your existence.